So many times when people are 50 and over, they want to keep being in the first half of life. And they're still longing for who they were, what they were, how they acted, but you're not there anymore.
Did you push record?
Thanks so much for tuning in again to our second act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hey there, Silka.
Hello, Paige. Paige, today we're going to take, based on your direction, actually, sort of a hybrid between recreating and reinventing our life after 50 and the whole relationship dating part. Why do we keep attracting the wrong people, the wrong, into our lives? It just is not helping us move forward. And you brought up a really good point about this change, this bridge from the first act, so to speak, to the second act. I want to throw it over to you because we talked about this off camera, and I thought it was really interesting, and I think our viewers will too. What is it about the second act versus the first act that keeps us stuck?
So, I call it the straddling. Our first act of life, we're doers, right? We get things done, we kind of force things. We have certain behaviors and actions that we practice, that we do. There's expectations that we want, and we just go, 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 go. And then when you move into the second act of life, it's very different. And that's what can trip a lot of us up as to, okay, wait a minute, I can't really force what I used to think I could force or control what I used to control. And my behaviors and actions are different because I've led a half of life already. So many times when people are 50 and over, they want to keep being in the first half of life. I equate it to, and this is just because it's not gender specific, but this is an example that's just coming up for me. I equate it to somebody who played high school football or sports, okay? And they were like wonderful and it was a great time, or someone who was in college and it was a fantastic time. And then they keep doing the same thing. They keep wanting to be back in high school or back in college or this was so great. So they're over 50 and they're still longing for who they were, what they were, how they acted, but you're not there anymore. So you're straddling both worlds. And if you're straddling both worlds, you're not going to be present, committed, ready, or open to anything positive or good if you're going to be straddling. You have to make a choice of, okay, that was the past. What pieces of that roadmap in my past still work for me in my present second act of life? So you have to identify that first, and whatever those are, then you bring that with you. The ones that were only first half of life, you keep it there, and that's okay because you're in the second half of life. And a lot of times when you're dating, we hear this all the time, right? So, well, why do I keep attracting the same person? Well, stop and ask yourself, are you attracting the same person that you attracted in the first half of your life? And if so, check yourself. What are the actions, behaviors, flags that the people that you keep attracting? I guarantee you it's who you attracted in the first half of your life, which says stop, look at your roadmap, and decide what behaviors, what personality traits, what things do you want and need in the second half that are very different. Because in the second half of life, we really need to start stepping into trusting and honoring and being led sometimes. And being led is whatever you believe, your higher powers, the universe, whatever, being led to things versus forcing and pushing, because that's what kind of settles down deep within us instead of forcing our way through things. So I'll just take a pause because I know I said a lot, Silka.
Well, what's interesting is in our conversation today, as well as a few other ones that I've recently had with some of our other content experts, that the theme that seems to be developing, and it's so important, and that's what we need to get through our heads, is that it's not about these lists or these characteristics or whatever about people that's going to make or break a relationship, but it's the feeling that person gives us, or the feelings that we create. Yeah, it's very interesting. And I think that's what you're saying is that we're going, we need more passion, we need purpose. And if we, keep acting like a 20, 30-year old with the go, 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 we are stuck in that and not being able to go after this passionate, purposeful life that
Well,
and new love that we're looking for. Does that make any sense?
I think so many times because when were younger, we felt like we could control things more and we did force and push. If I want this, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do this. That's not what happens in the second act of life. There's really more of a trusting. I kind of equate it to when sediment starts to settle in. That sediment starts to settle in. And a lot of times we get nervous of, oh my gosh, wait a minute. I'm not exactly like how I used to be. Something's wrong. It's not. Start to trust that as the sediment settles, there comes a more honoring and trusting of self, where you're starting to be led by something bigger than yourself and your inner knowing in a much more honest, trusting way. So the behaviors that you used to do and how you acted before was fine for the first half, but it's starting to change and shift a little bit and to step into more of who you are and to trust that and not have to fill every single moment and every single thing and do exactly what you did before because you're not who you were before. And guess what? That's okay. So it really is about, are you going to keep straddling both parts of life, or are you going to trust and step in to this part of your life that can look a lot different, but a lot better in so many different ways that fit where you are now versus trying to fit where you were then?
Do you think people, one of the reasons is that people are just resistant to aging?
Well, yeah, it's let's face it, aging's not for sissies, I mean, it's a difficult thing and we're in a society where people don't honor the aging.
Hmm.
And, that's still going to be there for a while because nothing shifts quickly in this world, that's for darn sure. So you can't wait for society to honor you. You have to start honoring where you are and in realizing that, maybe now I am in a different place. And how can I embrace where this is and put both feet where I am versus constantly, looking back. And, when I think about when you're dating or when you're in any type of friendship, because let's face it, when we're over 50, we move or things change. We're trying to recreate friendships as well, too. Pay attention because if you start to be around people, and I wrote some notes down here, if you start to be around people who are trying to deal with their issues through you, run the other way. Because at this point in our life, they need to start dealing with who you are, not with trying to deal with the issues through you. Does that make sense, Silka?
It does, but I want you to click. Can you give me a specific example? Because I think that's a really, really key point.
You know, if somebody is constantly having their own issues, whatever it might be, like, okay, you're not doing X, Y, and Z to make me feel good, and they're pushing it through what they're not doing to make you feel better. That's something we did first half of life. Second half of life is I need to start creating my own happiness, my own good things, and really look at the person that's there for who they are versus me trying to force who they're not and work my shit out through where they are. Does that make sense?
Well, and I say this a lot when we talk about these sort of topics that you relate it to what's happening in your life, and I've gone through shifts like that with some friends lately. So I
Everybody does.
yeah.
Everybody does. It's very, very normal because, and the good thing is if you're going through that, then that says to me, great, because you're present to see what's going on and you're actually letting the sediment kind of settle and you're not straddling both worlds anymore. You're kind of accepting where things are. And remember, accepting doesn't mean defeat.
Hmm.
Accepting means embracing and accepting things in a different way that will be even better for you than straddling where you were versus where you are.
Yeah, and like you said, instead of pushing something or trying to make something happen, get yourself in a place where you can recognize love or a potential relationship that normally you may not have recognized before. Kind of deep. This was a deep discussion.
I love the deep stuff.
Well, and I'm looking forward to the comments on this as well. See how this resonates, because this will resonate in different ways with different
Yes.
viewers. But the yes, the shift from first to second act, a lot's been written on that in modern day psychology. I think Jung and Freud, and they have all kinds of stuff written on that. But I'll try to find some articles and link that will spawn some more thought on this. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Paige. Is there
Mhm.
anything else that you wanted to point out?
I think just you can just start out with, am I straddling my first half of life to where I am now? And if your answer is yes, then start to say, well, why am I still straddling? What am I so fearful of if I put both feet present in the second half of life? And I'll end with that because that's a big question.
Terrific. Thank you, Paige. We'll see you next time on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Bye.
If there's a topic that you'd like to have us cover, please visit our website, secondact.tv. We have a little suggestion box on the upper right-hand corner of our site. Just click on that, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.